We cannot call them furries, right? They are. What would you call people like that?
Well, what's wrong with wanting some Tyranid?
One mark will be vehicle comprised of warrior women.
Hi friends, I'm LJ Jarvis, and welcome back to Lewis Jarvis Show.
Before we start the show, let me thank you for clicking onto this video. If you'd like to see more videos like these, why not subscribe and hit the bell button so you'll never miss an episode. Now, on with the show. Greetings everyone, welcome back to On Air with Jarvis, the podcast of all things Warhammer and general stuff I find of interest. Joining us today is a familiar voice that you'll all recognize, so let's give it up to Hubrecht. How's it going, sir?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me back here, Lewis. Always a pleasure.
No problem, man, no problem. It's always fun to have you onto the show.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think I'm doing good. I'm actually having a go at the Leviathan box models, so that's been fun so far.
I'm waiting. I've been on a bit of a hobby hiatus due to, life. Yeah. So I'm gonna wait on the knits, but well, let's just say, which we're gonna talk about in a moment, but let's just say this knit refresh has gone far beyond what I expected in the best way possible.
Oh, definitely. And it's like the glow up is almost insane, to say the least. It's almost like the same quality as the Seraphon models because it's the beauty of it, the beauty of the refresh.
Yes, definitely. And it's funny, how old were the oldest knit models? How old were they? Almost 20 plus years?
Is it really that old? Because I think they got I think they got the whole refresh, or at the time of their refresh, compared to how they were in second edition. I think it's from third edition, maybe.
Well, it has been quite a long time. I mean, we're in 10th now, so even if some of them did hold up nicely, they kind of start. It's one of those situations where it looks good, but the age is beginning to show.
It's starting to show. It's starting to show off the wrinkles.
Yeah. I mean, just look at the vial ball.
Oh yeah, that one didn't age well. That one didn't age.
In the old model,
and that's something I'll definitely bring up during the show. But
I have a joke for that, but I'll wait for when we bring it up. But the vial ball, the old model, reminds me of something.
Yeah, I got a joke myself for it too. But yeah, so for my Tyranid models, I decided to try the new painting method that I had in mind, right? Because before, I used to just spray paint Wraithbone, then 2 coats of a contrast paint called Viperish Pink, and that's how I would do the flesh of the Tyranids.
Right.
But it did kind of got messy on how I was applying the paints, and I was like, oh, there has to be a smart way for me to do this. So I thought, or for here, I'm going to spray paint them in Mephiston Red, then apply 1 coat of Viperish Pink. And it still does the same job. It has what I have in mind, even though the models before look a bit more pinker than these new ones. But then again, it's like, it's just a slight inconvenience. I can live with it.
Right. So the scheme is pink flesh and white carapace, or white chitin. Sorry,
I would describe it as like a palish bone color for the plate for the plate of the Tyranids. I'm going to call it that.
Right. Okay, I can see where you're going with that. You wanted to. Okay, what was the name of your homebrew hive fleet? Was Sedna, right?
Hive fleet Sedna.
Fleet Sedna. Do you want to give them kind of an Arctic feel to them?
That
because of that.
that was never actually my intention because of how very early I was originally painting them in like a purplish color. But
Right.
then I tried out Viperish Pink, and I was like, oh, okay, this looks good. And this was when the Hive Fleet was originally named Freya. But
Right.
then I was thinking, I just can't really work with Freya because I think it'd be more appropriate if it was named after like a monster or something like that. Even though there's something called Hive Fleet Perseus, I was thinking, I want to get to more of the monster feel. So after watching the TV show The Terror and seeing the monster like the Toonback, I was thinking, ooh, I really like the goddess Sedna. She sounds really cool. And her origin story of a goddess sounds really, creepy and cool sounding. So why not turn her into a Hive Fleet?
Yeah. I can see what you mean. Like from what I've seen of the Sedna story, it's like considering that she's the origin of sea life, I believe.
Mhm.
That sounds like a very hive mind appropriate thing, something that spawns all the creatures.
And also the gods of the underworld.
Right.
Because to the Inuits, the underworld was deep under the ocean, the Arctic Ocean,
Yeah, that's not creepy at all. The Arctic Oceans, creep me the hell out. Like
the pitch
they're
blackness
so
of
dark, pitch black, dark and cold.
it. Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
you were saying something about the Arctic theme you thought I was doing for this Hive Fleet. What's that about?
Yeah, I thought that that since you were with a bonish white scheme for the chitin, the plates of the knits,
Mhm.
you kind of when you were kind of going for a more Arctic theme to them, but that's not your intention. But I don't know. The name is Sedna. It has a white plate. I just thought John Carpenter's the thing, or camouflaging in the snow, something like that.
What do these blue curtains mean in this book? There must be a deep meaning behind it. And it's like, oh no, I just like the color blue.
I'm an overthinker, okay?
I gotta tell you, Hank, the white curtains in this book is telling us something, Hank. That's my worst Dale impression ever, but
Have you ever been to an escape room?
no. But
Well, that tends to happen more than you could that you can imagine. That people are trying to figure a puzzle in the escape room, and they're completely looking in the wrong place because they think that, I don't know, the color of the wall means something.
Were you in an escape room?
Yes.
Oh,
So you're
goodness.
like looking, knocking on a wall for like 30 minutes looking for a secret button or something, and the guy on the intercom is like, there's nothing there, go somewhere else.
That's what you were doing? Trying to knock on the wall?
Maybe.
This sounds personal.
Yeah, let's just say that every time I make a character or something, I do fall into the other end of that spectrum of, if it's colored, if it has a color, the color means something. Yeah, the character cannot be wearing a shirt of this color if it doesn't conform to some hidden symbolism inside this character, or some allegory for something.
Okay.
So, overthinker overthinks things,
It's almost
autism.
like
Autism. It's autism.
it's called a metaphor.
It's a metaphor.
Oh, actually, it's not a metaphor, but
Oh, well, you see, this is an allegory for the economic depression of the late 70s.
so funny enough, I have this story I want to tell you because I think it's pretty funny of overthinking things or making things into a metaphor, right? So I have this sister who studied, theology and the sort. So I sort of made a joke about, or not make a joke. I was telling her, in my version of Adam and Eve, I was thinking that the forbidden fruit is a, what's it called? That fruit from Hades and Persephone, pomegranate.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it's called. I was thinking, you see, it'll be a sort of symbolism of like Hades and Persephone and the connections of it. And she said, well, a pomegranate was not from the era location where the Christianity is from. And I was like, I know, but it's the meaning of the metaphor. It's the symbolism of it.
Yeah, I get it.
Oh, it's like, excuse me for appreciating artistic creativity.
Fair enough. I mean, your sister was right, though. So, like, you see, like, a lot of things that we take as symbols or allegories or metaphors for things, have their origin in the or cultural or geographic location or something. So, things that appear in the Bible as, symbols are often, are specifically those things because they have a cultural significance or availability in the region.
It's the meaning of the metaphor. It's the purpose of the metaphor.
Yeah, I know. Calm down.
Fun. No fun allowed.
No fun allowed. What do you think this is?
No fun. Being miserable builds character.
Miserable built character. You sound like George R.R. Martin.
Okay.
Be miserable, build character, don't finish book.
And actually, even on the subject of hive fleets, you were actually telling me in Eneptus about your original hive fleet a few podcast episodes ago.
Yes. So my hive fleet is so I'm still writing the details, but the general thing is my hive fleet is hive fleet Quatlique.
Mm-hmm.
So Quatlique is the not all mythologies, not all religions, but a lot of them have the figure of the Earth God, either the Earth Goddess, Earth Mother, or some variant of that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the embodiment of nature in its totality, and you see in the modern day and age, there's this idea of, nature is pretty and kind and you can jump around naked in the forest running alongside bunnies and shit like that. But the ancient, especially the Aztecs, and their general Nahuas, but this is mostly from the Aztecs' perspective, the Earth Mother Goddess, Quatlique, whose name literally means she of the serpent skirt, was an unstoppable monster that devoured everything in her path and killed was ferocious and merciless. I mean, she was still the mother goddess, the origin of earthly life, but in a more nature is a bitch kind of way.
What? No, nature's beautiful. Our ancestors never got hunted down by wolves or got victims of plague or natural causes from the storms. That's never happened.
Insert meme of vegans saying, I don't eat meat because I respect nature, and then I don't eat meat because I respect nature, and then nature, a lion tearing apart a sea.
It almost, you see, the people of Pompeii, when that volcano erupted, it's like, I think George Collins said best, is like, look at the people, like, frozen solid from the Pompeii, volcano eruption, right? And still say, we're a threat to nature.
Yeah. Remember, kids, nature is a bitch that wants to kill you.
But seriously, the Quatlique, sorry if I'm not saying that.
Yeah, don't worry. It's understandable that you do. I mean, tell me in the Mexican Museum of Anthropology, there's this old idol of her, which is the body of a woman that has a skirt made of serpents. Her head has been decapitated, and in place of her head, out of her stump, 2 snakes are coming out of her head, and she has a necklace made of severed hands and ripped out hearts. Now tell me that disturbing image is not perfect for Warhammer 40k.
It's too perfect for Warhammer,
Yes.
and it's like also there was this thing too, yeah, where recently scholars were like, maybe the conquistadors' notes weren't as over exaggerated as we might have believed with how
Yeah.
Aztec culture was.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like before we, because I'm containing myself not to turn this and not to hijack Lewis' podcast and turn it into a history podcast. Like I'm very critical of the Aztecs because normally they get like really, really, toned down by people, and people get this idea that I hate them. I don't. But every time something about the Aztecs comes up, they dig up something that proves it wrong. Like, oh, the Aztecs never actually did they never did that. That's just an invention. Then the archaeologists dig up, a rack full of human skulls from sacrifices. Oh, well, they were just warriors. Oh, no, there were also women and children there. So the Aztecs are the gift that keeps on giving. And in that regard, at least, I should really start a history podcast, to be fair. But the point is, I love the idea of, since the Tyranids are this, not just material force because the hive mind exists in the warp, but are kind of like nature gone insane. Nature gone to its ultimate insanity, to the point that it consumes everything else just to replicate itself.
Yes, that's exactly what the Tyranids are. Like monstrous, elements of nature. Like not of our native galaxy nature, but the cosmos. It's like and the horror.
Yeah, pretty much. To be fair, I believe that the Tyranids are just as eldritch abominations as much as the Chaos Gods. Like the Chaos Gods are spiritual evil, the Nids are natural evil. Natural evil meaning the random cruelty of nature.
Yes, perfect. That's a perfect way of describing it.
Yeah, pretty much. The Nids do not want to tempt you into committing evil. The Nids just want to consume you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's perfect. That's the name is perfect. The name Quatlico is perfect for that. And the scheme, I actually was I was commissioning an artist, so I'll tell you his name later. But I had this idea of basing it on basing the scheme of an animal native to Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up going with a quetzal. Now, a quetzal is a very beautiful type of bird. Bird with jade green feathers. Very beautiful. I'll send you an image of it in a moment. Like,
I remember the bird you were actually talking about on.
Oh yeah, I did. Right. Yes. Well, anyway, and I told the artist, okay, this is my custom hive fleet. I'm writing up the lore. This is when I'm getting my Nid models. I'll paint them this way. So I want you to help me, make the scheme possible. He told me, yeah, sure. Like, I'm up for that. And like he's doing a great job on that. Basically, the chitin, the plate armor of the Nids is that shade of green. Okay. The underbelly, the more fleshy parts, is red. But as you go further away from the main body of the Nids themselves, it starts becoming paler.
Okay.
It's paler. It stops being red and it starts becoming whitish with a pinkish tint.
Was it sort of inspired by the new Hive Fleet Games Workshop showed off, like with Typhon and Cephas?
Yes, that and the color scheme that nature gave us with the Quetzal, but essentially I kind of wanted to do that. I didn't want, like, this may be more difficult to paint, but at the end of the day, I kind of wanted to, like you said, with those new schemes that kind of have a color that kind of glazes and banishes into another color instead of just two solid colors, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, I kind of want it because it looks more like an animal and, more natural, more like how an animal would look in reality. A lot of animals do not have like just a solid coloration to them. They have several that, that banish into other pigmentations. I'm just, talking random words that I don't even understand, but that's the basic idea of it.
Mm-hmm. Of course. And I think that looks really stunning, and I can't wait to see what you have in mind.
Yeah. Thanks, brother.
And, going back to this conversation, right? So from this Leviathan box and from the model reveals that Games Workshop showed off not too long ago, it really did remind me of why I like Tyranid so much. And again, I think these were given such a glow up that it's amazing. And compared to all the other, factions before in 9th edition that got the upgrade, I think Tyranid thus far has gotten the best treatment, I think. Or in terms of like in the Xenos factions of things.
Honestly, it's hard to disagree with that. I mean, to be fair, most of the glow ups I've enjoyed. The Orcs glow up was great. So was the Necrons. I mean, Silent King came back. The Eldars, oh my god, they needed it.
They really needed it.
Yeah, they needed that. Like, wow. And hopefully they'll get the rest soon. And we had, of course, the release of the Votan, but I think that with the Nits, since the Nits are giant monsters, they kind of, not like they're allowed to go insane because, the Orcs, you're kind of allowed to do that as well, but at the same time, there's something really satisfying of, designing, I think, just one big ass monster, and that's all it is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And you can
a soldier. It's just a big monster, big creature.
And you can definitely see the inspiration behind these models. It's like they will either scream, Ridley Scott's Aliens or Starship Troopers. And because they're like this, monsters combination and warping them, it's both inspiring and it is actually just that inspiring to look at because it really does show like how inspired Warhammer is. If they're not like, straight out stealing stuff.
What was that phrase? Imitation is the highest form of flattery. I mean, and you can see, and they went big. Like, if it's like you say, if it's not Alien or Starship Troopers, you can see, of course, Lovecraft in there with the Lictor, and I think you mentioned this. The new two big knit hero models, the Norn Emissary and the Norn Assimilator. Yes. Those are, when they came up, the only thing I could think was the Godzilla theme.
Yes, that's literally what I thought. That is literally what I thought. It's like seeing those models, I could literally hear Godzilla's roar. Like, rah! I can't intimidate it, but you can just. I don't have that string instrument where they put a leather glove across it. Come on.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry. I know. I think everyone knows Godzilla's iconic roar, but yes, I thought the same thing. And I like the fact that those two are technically made out of the same, not blueprint, let's call it, but they still look different enough. Like one is like the Emissary has these big talons and the big brain of the Neurotyrant means that it's a psyker, and the other is like more venomous, has more insectoid parts, and the other one and the Emissary has like more reptilian elements to it. That's how it felt to me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, no, I love them. I'm getting those at some point because those are great. Like, they needed that because the poor Swarm Lord has been humiliated so much that people do not take the poor bastard seriously. Poor Swarm Lord.
And here's something I'll say about the emissary, right? So, because of the name, right, and because I sort of see it as a representative of the Norn Queen, someone within the quote unquote royal council of a hive fleet, I think a scene that would be very cool if they were to ever do this in like some kind of book or something, is that if we get to see the Norn emissary like talk. Like imagine him, or imagine it like fighting a space marine captain, or he's taking down like swarms of Imperial guardsmen, and and suddenly it's speaking Imperial Gothic, right? And of course this freaks everyone out because it's like this has never happened before, or we never knew that they could do something like this. But because it's a Norn emissary, and because it's the, again, representative of the Norn Queen, I was thinking it has that sentience, it has that intelligence where it can communicate with humans. You know? Like, I think, therefore I am, where it has the self-conscious of it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I'm debating whether that would be like jumping the shark too much, and yeah, I know that we're talking about 40k. Or if that could actually work. For example, I think that the Swarm Lord does have a concept of itself.
Oh, I mean,
the Swarm Lord does have a concept of itself. I wonder if these two have it as well. Like, I imagine that maybe they do, but at the same time, like, we still haven't gotten that much lore into it. We know it's really intelligent. Like, it took, from what I understand, it took tanks firing upon it and like 5 custodians and the captain general to take it down. So, like, if Marines were to take it down, they will take it down with heavy losses, like an entire squad or like several squads of Marines or things like that. It's one hell of a battle. And I cannot imagine any creature vesting a Custodes that doesn't have intelligence. You kind of need it to fight a custodian. Not just brute force.
Yeah, it's also because, of the name of it and because of what role it would play, the representative of the Norn Queen.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Maybe, what could make a bit more sense? Like, instead of like just talking, like, this big ass monster just saying like, "Hey guys, how are you doing?" Being more like, it has adapted to be able to do mimicry.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like it sounds like a million voices speaking at once. Like, everyone is like a million voices. Yes, that's something like that. That's what I mean. It's like,
yes,
the whole hive mind speaking through this creature.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I can imagine that working. Maybe. I mean, to be fair, we know that the thing is, how earlier we just said like Tyranids are kind of like a natural evil, like a natural disaster. But here's the thing: I do not remember the name of the story. I need to look it up. But apparently, there's a story where an Eldar Farseer tries to commune with the hive mind, to understand more of what is this thing. And apparently the hive mind, and I think like in several books has been hinted at that the hive mind, for all the commentary of the Tyranids being, don't feeling things like hatred or jealousy or vengeance and just wanting to eat.
That's right.
Apparently, that's not really the case. Apparently, the hive mind does understand concepts like hatred, revenge,
and cruelty,
and things like that. And cruelty. It does understand them, and it does apply them. For example, that the Eldar Farseer, upon communion with the hive mind, realizes that the hive mind is not eating them only for the sake of survival. It's eating them because he hates them. The thing hates us. We're not just, it's not consumption just because I'm hungry. is consumption because it's hungry, and it takes enjoyment out of, and it's delectating upon it. And
it's something sadistic, basically.
yeah, it has, it's the cruelty of nature. I just thought of a perfect example for this. Have you had cases where animals, predators, develop the sense of hunting for sport?
I think I've heard something like that, because there was something about like these monkeys that like, they had a war with each other, quote unquote, and they did enjoy killing each other out of it. Yeah, like
pretty much
cheering in.
Imagine dolphins or orcas.
Yeah,
the hive mind are dolphins. The hive mind,
and everything that goes with it.
They have a sense of enjoying the suffering of others. There was this once a case in the early late 19th century about 2 lions in Africa that started killing people just for the sport of it. They didn't eat anything that they hunted. They just did it out of sport, had developed a taste for, the thrill of the hunt. And apparently the hive mind is that, it is eating for hunger, but it's also hunting for sport. And I think, and I like that because it kind of like, it adds more personality to it, because a lot of people get turned off from the Tyranids because they find them boring, because force that doesn't have any personality, doesn't get any investment from you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you tell them, oh, it has one, you just can't understand it. Now that's interesting.
It is, and I actually read something like this in a book, Blood of Ball, where I think it was Mephiston. He did communicate also with the hive mind, and he did feel like that maliciousness and cruelty of the hive fleet. It's like, it really does build character, and I think it's much better than them just being a swarm of locusts, and that's it. So I think this is a good direction to take the Tyranids.
Yeah, honestly, I agree. And it gives them far more gravitas, I mean, now the threat of swarm eating the galaxy, like, makes one think harder about their origins. Where did these things come from? Like, who made these things? Because these things, for all their mastery of evolution, could not have developed on their own. I mean, what kind of crazy conditions could bring these things naturally, Are they a super weapon, or something like that? Were they created by the old ones? Are the result of some catastrophe?
Well, what I'm thinking is that maybe the old ones sort of created the original Tyranid or the original Tyranids, but the evolution took them to a whole different direction that they did not expect at all. Like that accidental monster creation,
Yes, I like that, especially considering that the Necrons are very invested in the defeat of the Tyranids, and if the Tyranids are creations of the old ones, it will kind of circle back to that last active spite of the old ones to the Necrons.
Definitely.
Maybe. I like that. I think that's maybe a good direction. Of course, GW do not reveal the origins of the Tyranids. Just give us clues. Part of the mystery is kind of like the best part of it more than the answer, I think.
For sure. And, also thinking moving onwards, I think, to those who might not know this, so recently Games Workshop have actually done this sort of narrative play for a planet of theirs within the setting, where it will be Ultramarines versus Tyranids, and whoever would win would actually show off the new models that will be coming out for that said army. And this was for the planet of Oberon, if that's what it's called, right? Or I forgot what the planet is called, but the point is that the Tyranids did win, and we got to see awesome new models out of that. And thank goodness that they did.
Wait. Yes, it's Ogrim. by the way.
Ogrim, thank
Sorry.
you. Thank you. Right? So thank goodness they did that because I didn't want to be like, Dumbledore, a 4D Space Marine holding his sword and Codex standards. I give them that one extra point to win. It's like,
It
thanks.
certainly does feel like that with the Ultramarines sometimes. Well, not sometimes. Okay, look. I'm not the Ultramarines' biggest fan. I do not hate them as I used to. I kind of learned to like them. I still think that they get far much more of the spotlight than more interesting chapters. But honestly, I'm glad that they lost, not out of spite, mostly because of that trailer, the whole victory trailer.
Yes.
Because it's a great follow-up to that. It makes that the Tyranids have evolved again. They caught us by surprise in Segmented Pacificus, which, by the way, finally something happened in Segmented Pacificus. Do you remember when I told you nothing happens in that place? So it's very well named.
Mm-hmm.
So not anymore.
I haven't even thought of that. It's like, good thing too, because like you said, it does fit the whole new tone of this edition, of the threat of the Hive Fleet. And thank goodness that they showed this with this, battle play. So good on you, G-Dubs, for following through on that. And especially following through on like very wicked new Tyranid models, because that is the reason why I want to do the show sooner rather than later, because I did want to talk about the new stuff that came out of this sort of reveal and all.
And it just... Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Like, we already talked about the Norn Emissary, right? And we gave our thoughts on that. But the new Lictor, what do you have to say on that? Or the 3 new Lictors?
I love the new Lictor.
Yes.
Like, the Lictor has always been one of my favorite knit creatures. I think most people's favorite knit creature. And they just did him so well. Like, even the Neuro version, which is... I like the normie version of it more, but I like the Neuro version. Yeah.
Yeah, the vanilla variant. Then we got to see the Death Leaper, which has like
the Death Leaper, yes.
Yeah, has the insect skirts going on.
Yeah, yes. Yes, the skirt wings. Yeah, everyone was like, oh, the Tyranids have evolved to develop a sense of fashion now.
That's right, and
yeah. The Viovore. The Viovore. I love it. Because the old Viovore reminded me of Varney the dinosaur for some reason.
Yeah?
I don't know why. I look at that thing and for some reason I'm reminded of Varney the dinosaur's derpy cousin.
Okay, I think I can see that.
Kids? And that was my Varney impression.
Here's what I'll say too about the Biovore, right? Biovore or Pyrovore, it's alternate build. What I like about it is that it did get the HRT treatment where it looks much better from how the original model was, yeah. But
yes,
also because I like the new design direction they took, like how this one has like more arachnid theme to it going on.
Yeah, like a mix between a spider and a crab, something. Yeah,
exactly. And because the original Biovore, it's sort of like a gorilla with a huge cannon on its back, and that is basically what it was.
Barney gorilla.
And you could make an argument that maybe James Workshop could have like kept the idea of the original design and make it new, but at the same time, will it look any different from the Exercise model? If that's how you pronounce it. It's think of a very large Tyranid with a very large cannon on its back. It's basically a muscular version of the Biovore.
Yeah,
that's basically what it is, right? So good thing they didn't keep the original design. I like that they made something distinctive when comparing to that model.
I mean, I think that they evolved the original idea in its own direction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still like the same idea,
It's the same idea.
It's a walking cannon, It's a cannon that walks.
Mhm.
It's an artillery platform that's alive. That's what the Vial War is.
Mhm.
But they kind of made it fit with the dinosaur, insectoid, crustacean, aesthetic that the rest of the that the rest of the Tyranids share. Also, I must say, I think that they did a similar thing to what they did with the Screamer Killer.
That's right.
Yeah,
Because the original Carnifex model, they changed it for the later on Carnifexes in 3rd edition and of the sword. But for this edition, when they show off a different breed of Carnifex, that's when they use the very original design for the influence of it. So it's not like they changed designs of models before,
Yes,
Well,
I understand.
They would change it, then use the old models as an inspiration for something new. It's interesting and cool to see how Games Workshop are designing these Tyranids.
Speaking of which, I also like the fact that they're kind of like leaning a bit into this visual storytelling with the knits, and the fact that a lot of the newer stuff, the neuro variants of things,
Yes, that's exactly what.
Exactly because of the Great Rift. So the Tyranids have adapted to become more psychic.
I haven't even thought of that. I didn't think of that. Why didn't I think of that?
That's why you have me.
That's also what I really like about these new Tyranids, like the quote unquote Nero characters.
Yeah,
Nero, like Nero Tyrant, Nero Lictor.
The Metroid knits.
That is basically what they are. They have like this huge psychic blue brains, and it makes them look really sick and cool. And even about the Nero Lictor, I found that to be a very cool design for the idea of the Lictor. And and because it's the internet, there's already porn
yes, you sick bastards, Xeno lovers.
That Nero Lictor,
Literally,
that Nero Lictor in a thigh high. It's like wood.
Wood. We cannot call them furries, right? They are. What would you call people like that?
Well, what's wrong with wanting some Tyranid? Now draw that Lictor pregnant.
That's called the Norn Queen, Lewis.
Did I stutter? But then again, I feel like the guy who's like all horny up for the Nero Lictor, he goes, "Why do I feel something pressing against my butt?" And the Nero Lictor goes, "Because there is. Because there is."
Girl's literally gonna eat you up. Rated M for mature kids.
What's that character's name from that anime? Konosuba? He's like,
I think Kasuma, I think that's his name.
Yeah, he's like,
Trauma.
But going back on the convo.
Curse you, internet.
Now I have the title for the video. But seriously though, I really do like the Nero design. They went with like the Nero Tyrant, Nero Lictor, right? Same conversation piece. So this it's not technically new because we did get like big brain psycho Tyranids before. Like we even have this one Tyranid model that's kind of looking like a crab, but has like brains protruding from its shell. It's basically, think of it as like a Tyranid psychic tank. That's basically what it is.
I think it was called the zoanthrope, I think. Is it that one? The one that it's made from Eldar gene, genetic
No.
material.
No, that one doesn't have like the crab look. It's more like a. It's more like a. What I say,
Floaty
fish?
thing.
It's more like a flowing worm. That's basically how I'm going to describe it. But the whole point is that they had like these brain Tyranids before, but they didn't have like the blue, but they weren't blue designed, or they didn't have the blue thing going on. So I think that with these Nero characters, I think they're also going to go back with those models and paint those brains blue for consistency. I think, because of the meaning of the blue brain, because of how with these new characters, it means that they're more psychically strong.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Also, I think I hear this bit from time to time from the reveals. They sort of describe it as like a parasite. These Nero tyrants and stuff. How there's like a parasite that's on them that gave them the ability to be psychically stronger, to have these like big brains. Have you noticed that?
Right. So that makes me wonder, though. Okay, the lictor, the vanilla lictor, it's an infiltration organism. Its job is to infiltrate a planet before the actual invasion arrives, scout ahead, take out, important figures to weaken the planet's defenses, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What is the role of the Neuro Tyrant? Because it cannot simply be it's stat but psychic. So, like,
I think you mean Nero Lictor, right?
Oh, sorry, Neuro Tyrant. Yeah, Neuro Lictor. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it does serve the same problem, but I think from what I remember from the reveals, it's sort of like psychically messes up the people, where it gives them that anxiety, gives them that fear of what's going on. My thoughts aren't my own anymore. It's I want to think of it as like it's a psychological warfare put into the extreme, and that's what the Nero Lector is for.
Right. So pretty much the Nero Lecture.
Besides getting the men hot for its thigh highs. Okay, that's enough.
Okay, so let me see if I understand what the Night Lords need to torture people doing. This thing can do it by thinking. What the Night Lords do by flaying people, the Neurolictor does by thinking.
Yes, with its like very powerful psychic mind. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
I
suppose we'll need to wait to see when we get more lore on the thing, but they all look promising, to be fair.
And though, to be honest, besides the whole jokes and all that, I think I would pick up the vanilla variant of the Lictor, because not only do I think it will look great with my lurkers, but I just really do like the vanilla variants, the vanilla look of the Lictor.
Yeah, I love it.
I like the
as well.
Like, I really do like the other stuff, but I think for the sake of that's the Lictor, I think I will pick up the vanilla one. I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do love the whole Cthulhu look it has.
Also, the praying mantis like armors from its back.
Yeah.
And I think for the brains, for the, in general, the Nero Tyranids, I was thinking of painting them like a purplish color, because I think I'm already using blue for like the tongue and stuff for these Tyranids. So I think doing these brains as like a purple color, I think that can work good against like the bone white or the red flesh. Yeah.
Light or deep purple?
Mm-hmm. Leviathan purple.
Okay. Brains
or Byzantine purple.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. Well, the brains and mine are gonna remain the same blue, because it mixes surprisingly well with the green and the reddish white. I need to show you that thing, but the blue color scheme for the brain still looks good on the scheme I'm building. So for the moment, it remains that way for me.
Mm-hmm. And talking about like troop models, because we also got to see like the new Hormagons and Termagants. So those look really cool to me. Like I like how these new models are leaping and sprinting. It looks really good, and I think they will look great against like your old models. I think they'll still look good with your old models. I don't think it's going to be making what you had before like outdated. What I'm trying to say, I think it'll still look great as a huge horde army because that's what Tyranids are for. But that's an over exaggerated for me to say that I really do like these new, troop models. But the spotlight are the Gene Stealers. I really like them.
Oh yeah,
I really like the Gene Stealers.
Yeah,
they're like I have Hormagons, Termagants, and Gene Stealers, but the Gene Stealers are all painted already. So I think I would pick up even more Gene Stealers because I love the Stealers of Genes.
I mean, the Gene Stealers, I love the look of the new models. The Gene Stealers are always a joy. I mean, the Gene Stealers are technically the first net models,
Technically they are, yeah. Or they're technically the first Tyranids in the galaxy.
Yes. And the Gene Stealers are one of the creepiest part of net lore, because this is not this is a literal parasite that literally impregnates and spreads itself over generations, makes people genetically compelled to worship it as a god, weakens a planet, and then goes into uprising for the Day of Reckoning. And that Day of Reckoning is
upon us. It's upon us.
Yeah. Like that moment of horrifying realization where the Gene Stealer cultist realizes that he is going into the acid pits with the rest.
It's like, no, I was promised. I was promised my neural lictor.
Rah, rah, get in the acid pit.
But, funny thing, because I think it's a funny story to tell. So I was telling my sister about what Gene Stealer is because I was showing her my models once, and she's like, Gene Stealer? I was like, yeah, so they infect your genes so that when you have children, they become like these half human, half Tyranid sort of creature. And she goes, okay, I'm not interested. Leave me alone. And I'm like, okay, fine, be that way.
So she doesn't enjoy body horror.
I don't think she would like the thing because, like, oh, this is gross.
I mean, it is, but that's part of the fun.
It's a magic show.
Yeah, it's a magic show, but I mean that's kind of like the creepy part of it, isn't it? Imagine being a woman in the hive. You just have your newborn, and your newborn has a third arm.
But he doesn't see the third arm. He sees it as the perfect child,
Yeah, I know, but everyone else doesn't. And she's like, "Why are you all saying so many mean things about my baby? Get that thing away from me."
Yeah, and again, I really do like the new troop models, like how they're leaping and sprinting and stuff. It looks really good.
I like them a lot. I always the melee ones are I always get these two confused: the Hormagons and the Termagants. The Termagants are
the Termagants, I think, are
ones, right?
Termagants, I think they're the ones with the claws, and Hormagons, I think they're the ones with the shooting.
Right.
But I might got them switched up. But but we did get to see like more different kinds of guns that these Tyranids have.
And the internet being the internet,
it looks like a horse penis.
Oh yeah. Damn it.
Well, there's plenty of Tyranid guns that is basically a penis for how they work. It's basically what it is. It's like it has a sack. It has like something that creates the ammunition. It's a penis. That is what it is.
Oh my god, the Tyranids were a Slaanesh inside job the whole time.
It's basically biology. That is what it is.
It's biology. There's nothing to be embarrassed about.
It's like,
It's
have
natural.
you not seen that one Tyranid model where it's basically just a huge belly and it just releases a bunch of termagants? That's a pregnant fantasy there. That's a pregnant fetish there.
Yeah, yes, I know. It doesn't mean it's no less disturbing than that. Releases. I love how you so vigorously say it. Releases. This is an episode about spacewalks, and I think we have said as many innuendos, and dirty jokes as if this was a Slaanesh focused podcast.
Secret fetish reveal too.
Kids, bestiality is wrong.
There's no kids watching this show.
I know.
Yeah. But jokes aside. Also I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but I remember this when we were talking about like the Pyrovore, the alternate build from the Biovore, right? I liked how it also described it as it sprays vinegar basically on the food and the rest of the Hive fleet devours it later. That's the most British thing ever, and
it's the most English thing ever.
And he's not wrong. He's not wrong on that.
He's not wrong. That Pyrovore is basically that lady that sells me the chips down two blocks from here, and she's like, "Hey, love, do you want some vinegar in it, love? Here."
On my whole trip to England, it's like they only had the brown stuff for vinegar. They didn't have the white stuff. I love the white vinegar. The brown stuff is like too sweet for me. It's nasty.
I like both, to be honest. I'm still more of a, ketchup with my chips. Look at me saying chips instead of fries. But anyway.
To my American audience, we are saying fries.
Yeah, we are saying fries. We're just saying it correctly, apparently. Because I'm being blackmailed by my English friends. It's chips, mate. It's chips, not fries.
Oh, it's chips, you pseudo-Spaniard cunt.
Listen here, chap. Fries is a stupid word from those stupid traitors on the other side of the pond.
You're not a colonist, ain't here.
But yeah, it was the perfect English model. In fact, when I get that model, I'm going to ask that lady what... that's what I'm going to call the Pyrovore.
Oh, yeah?
The same name as the lady of the chip and vinegar.
Awesome, nice. I think I will do mine as a Pyrovore because I really do like the model and the role of it. I think I'll do it.
I really liked it as well. I mean, we have been repeating this thing throughout the entire show, but I don't think there's anything we actually disliked about this reveal. Is there anything you actually didn't like?
Honestly, no. I really like the stuff that they showed.
Yeah, right. I mean,
it's like I'm not this like bitter guy who wants to fine comb everything to complain about because, I'm not a bitch.
Fair enough.
So but it's I just don't have. Sorry, I just don't have nothing to complain about.
Yeah, it's that good, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, what? Let's say Termagants and Hormigons, 2 variations of Lecter, Biovore and Pyrovore, Gene Stealers, the Norn Emissary and the Norn Assimilator. Are we missing something?
No, that's basically what we've covered. And from what we've seen, I love this stuff. I love the new Tyranids. It's like it's inspired me to continue painting my Tyranids. As hopeless as the tax it is.
Yeah, I mean, it made me want to get Tyranids.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, and the Tyranids for me, were in this weird space in which I like them in concept because, giant monsters are always fun. But, lore-wise, kind of, they can, if done incorrectly, can become a bit boring simply because of the fact they're an enemy with, well, allegedly no personality. So you cannot exactly craft many stories like with my Templars, which I need to finish. I can craft stories based on that. With Chaos, I can do that. With the Orcs, maybe the stories may be one note, but I can craft stories with them and with everyone else except the Tyranids, because well, they're a hive mind. What am I going to tell? And like the Gene Stealer cults, at the end of the day, are just a pawn. A disposable pawn that will be consumed, and that their entire lives will just tantamount to what the Hive Fleet needs them to do.
Yeah. So from all this, we can definitely see that Games Workshop has really thought really hard on Tyranids and made them much better than how they initially were, or gave them more flavor in terms of lore and presentation. Like how we can work with Tyranids, how we can make them more monstrous, make them look more evolutionary scary,
Yeah. I definitely agree, though. And circling back to the Ogram situation, I do like that they won.
Yes.
As I said, to reiterate, because the tone of that trailer needed a Tyranid victory for me to take the Tyranid seriously. Now they do. I love how everyone was like, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
I love when they won, like the memes start flowing of,
they did it.
Wow, they did it. They actually did it.
Like, I did it. I did it.
Like, this, have you seen the movie Megamind?
I have.
Yeah, it was basically that. I won. I did it. He won. You won. He did it. I'm pretty sure that's how Abaddon felt after the 13th Black Crusade as well. I did it.
After throwing a tantrum.
Yeah. We did. What was that? The Dora the Explorer song? We did it. We did it.
But besides all that, I think it's also a good time for me to ask you some questions that people have asked of us, if you're interested.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So here's a question from a favorite friend of yours, I think. First of all, the obligatory Dark Angels #1 Knights get bent, Hugh. But as to the question, actually, he says, to Hugh, has reading Descent of Angels changed your opinions on the Dark Angels at all? Or on Caliban?
Right. Obligatory, fuck off, Badger. That's pure copium. Black Templars, best knights. Honestly, I mean, I never hated the Dark Angels. I simply state that they're inferior knights to the Black Templars. And here's the thing, reading Descent of Angels has not changed that opinion. In fact, it's kind of reinforced it.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, because here's the thing, and I mean this seriously. I'm not joking. I'm not quipping. Because here's the thing. You know how I sometimes call the Dark Angels History Channel Knights?
Okay.
with the whole secret conspiracy theory, and people generally think that's how knightly orders operated in reality.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like even though the pseudo-Arturian kind of feel that Caliban and the Dark Angels aim for, it does feel like after reading Descent of Angels, well, listening to Descent of Angels more I did enjoy the book. I mean, it was a good book, a solid 7, I would say. 7.5. It was not a masterpiece, but it was good. A lot of the knightly elements from Caliban and the Dark Angels themselves feel a bit surface level, and I don't mean that in they're badly written. I mean that in it's purposefully surface level, because one of my whole arguments on why the Templars are better knights. It's just it's based mainly on personality and practices. So there is this scene on Descent of Angels at the very beginning where the protagonist Zahariel is being inducted into the order by the Lord Cypher, by Luther, and by the Lion. This is before the Imperium even arrives in Caliban, right?
Mhm.
And, they ask him all these questions to prove his worthiness. They blindfold him. They make him swear a blood oath by cutting the palm of his hand, etc., etc. That's the rite of initiation into the order. And, into the Calavanite Knights order. Okay,
Yes.
fine. That's fair. It feels pseudo-monastic, even though it, not really monk-like, but it feels pseudo-monastic. But compare that to how Grimaldus gets ascended to his post as the Reclusiarch at the beginning of Hell's Reach. He walks up to, the main hall, of the Eternal Crusader, where, Hubrecht and the other high knights of the inner circle of the Templars are gathered, with all other brother initiates and neophytes present as witnesses. They make him kneel, they make him swear an oath, and then Hubrecht, upon naming him to the Reclusium, backhands him in the face. Now, what does this have to do with anything? That's actually, historically speaking, that's a part of the knighthood, the knighting ceremony.
Mhm.
The last blow that will remain unanswered.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's just a small bit, and of course, I know that Warhammer 40k is not meant to be historically accurate, yada yada yada. Yeah, I know, but the details are still appreciated because, hell, if you don't follow some sort of model, you get the space wolves.
Exactly.
I know that I'm not here for historical accuracy, but some of it is appreciated to some degree for flavor reasons.
Mhm.
And so, I enjoyed Descent of Angels, but it does feel like I did genuinely feel like the knighthood of the order of the Dark Angels was very surface level. Their personality never struck me as particularly knightly, unlike the Templars. I mean, it has echoes of that. It has them, but they did feel very watered down, and I think that's kind of that's kind of like the point, that's kind of purposeful, because at the end of the day, the main theme of the Dark Angels is the search for redemption. I mean, and they're more like fallen angels looking for redemption rather than knights from what I see. And I think this is obvious in the sense that the Dark Angels are the ones that have angel names, actual real angel names as character names the most.
Mhm.
Azrael, Samael, those kinds of names. Like the Blood Angels do not have that. You see what I mean?
I get what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, flavor speaking, yeah. I like the Dark Angels. It made me like them a bit more. I still stand Templars are better knights. Like even the Custodians, when asked for on the first Heretic, the Custodians, when they reference a knighting, they reference Sigismund, not the Dark Angels. They talk about Sigismund.
Okay, I get it.
I need to make sure he understands.
Well, it's going to be a nightmare having you two on, that's for sure.
Come on, you're looking for.
Oh, sorry?
You're looking forward to that, don't I?
I am. And hopefully you all are too.
Yeah.
But so we already talked about the Orgrim situation already. That was another one of his questions, so I'll move on to his third one here. So you are taxed in creating a new Tyranid bioform inspired by a mythological monster. what is your idea? And can I actually share my thoughts on this first?
Yeah, your podcast.
It is my show, so I don't think Tyranids should go in a direction of being inspired by mythological monsters, because that's technically not their thing. They're more of the insect dinosaur sort of vibe to it, very less on this is a creature that looks like a hydra, or this is a creature that looks like a cyclops, this one looks like a chimera. That's not what the Tyranids are about, but there is technically a way we can use the mythological monster as representatives of the Tyranids, and that being, of course, the Hive Fleet names. So, because this is something I always thought would be cool. Imagine these emblems that represent each Hive Fleet. So for Behemoth, there's this huge serpentine like Tyranid, and for Behemoth, there's like this enormous tanking Carnifex like monster that represents the creature Behemoth. And
Yes.
for Kraken, there's also that pseudo squid Tyranid, tentacle monster sort of thing that represents Kraken. So imagine these mythological Tyranid looking models representing each of the Hive Fleets,
You mean like each Hive Fleet having a hero character per se for each of their own?
Oh, I don't mean like that, but it's more like how Space Marine chapters have their own insignia.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
see.
Imagine something like that for like the Tyranids, or it's like these monsters that just artistically made to represent them, and like say stained glass windows or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I get it. I like that idea.
Mhm.
I like that idea.
Exactly. So that is my answer. I don't think Games Workshop should go to the direction of using actual mythological monsters to inspire their Tyranids, because I don't think that's what they're about. But that's one of the ways we could use them in a smart and clever way, I think,
Yeah, I get it. Well, I would say that I think that maybe not a specific mythological monster, although you could certainly place a lot of these. The description I'm about to give could place several of them in in that category.
Mhm.
But I would like a Tyranid model with several heads. Like with several heads. Like maybe that's kind of a bit Hydra, maybe. But I feel like I find it strange that we, with all the creativity of the hive mind, we haven't seen like a Tyranid creature that has more than one head. Unless, of course, I'm missing something.
Okay.
I don't know. I would like this big ass creature with more than one head. Maybe it would be a bit redundant for it to have it. With the whole unstoppable evolution thing that the Tyranids have, but definitely will go for a Hydra kind of look. Maybe
Or maybe like the Cerberus monster from the video game version of Dante's Inferno.
oh yes, that was gross. I love it. Yes,
Like-
that's a good version of Severus.
Like a very worm-like Cerberus Tyranid, maybe.
Yeah, I would really like that. Yes, that's a good idea. I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, something like that. Something with more than one head. I find it strange that we haven't seen something like that yet. But I don't know. Maybe that's not the theme that they're going for. But I would definitely go for a Hydra kind of look, or a Typhon kind of look. In Greek mythology, Typhon had snakes for fingers.
Mhm.
So
I know Typhon. Yeah.
these, so this Ned that has several tendrils coming out of his hands, but the tendrils are all little nits themselves.
Okay,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can get that.
Yeah. I would like something like that. It doesn't have to be. They don't have to be literal hands, but the tentacles are not just tentacles. They're mouth feeders as well.
Yeah, so imagine if the Thane alien were to infect a Tyranid, something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that once you ask this question of what would win, the Thing organism or the Tyranid hive mind?
Oh, yeah, about that. So, I think for here, I think the Thane alien is more on the biological side of things, on taking over a host's body. So, in something like this, I think that the parasite of the Thane alien would, he would obviously take over a Tyranid, but the hive fleet will immediately know that something's not right with this Tyranid, and they will see it as a threat to its biology, a actual parasite to its biology. So if they were to consume it, I think the creature would actually be stronger and taking over, that Tyranid before it can digest it. If that kind of shows like how powerful this creature is,
Okay. However, the Tyranids consume it at a molecular level. Like they don't even leave bacteria, and the Thing creature at the smallest level is like a cell, like a bacteria as well.
Yeah.
So I'm actually putting my money on the hive mind, because even if the Thing parasite managed to assimilate and consume, Tyranid organism, not only would it take time to do that, because it needs to be secluded, remember? He likes to do that when no one's looking.
Mm-hmm.
The hive mind would immediately register the problem with the genome.
Exactly.
And either consume the consumed Tyranid. And I would think I'm putting my money on the cells of the Tyranid cells' adaptability, because I think they would work faster, and you have the hive mind to consider. So whatever psychic effects the hive mind can have over the Thing creature, I'm putting my money on the nits, which would make them even more dangerous. Imagine the nits raining spores on a planet, and by breathing them in, essentially already turning most of the biological organisms into, mutant slaves of the hive mind. It would discontinue the gene stealers, essentially.
And technically, Games Workshop could have done something like that for Tyranids like forever ago. But if they did, then there'll be like no lore or no setting.
Automatic win, almost automatically they would win,
because there'll be no actual warfare, guys.
Yeah.
But as for the next question, so with the threat of the Tyranids growing every century, where would you guys like to see Games Workshop go with them narratively, if at all? So it's like, what direction will you want to see with the Tyranids and of the sort? Which I think we did talk about on the podcast, right? I did share my ideas, but I think to really show like the threat of the Tyranids, this might be a little risky, but I don't think Games Workshop will ever do something like this. But here's my idea. So they invade Ultramar again, right? Behemoth, Leviathan, bunch of these hive fleets are going at Behemoth. They're going at Ultramar. And like with Behemoth, they do invade McCraig, but because of how numerous the Tyranids are and because of how fast they're invading, Gilman has no choice but to abandon half of Ultramar to the Tyranids, because if he were to put all of his resources into find them off to save McCraig and to save Ultramar, then the rest of the galaxy is doomed. So he has to cut off a finger in order to save a hand, I think this way it really just shows how monstrously huge the Tyranid threat is, that even something like Ultramar, or at least half of it, is gone to the Tyranids. But that has to be like an end time scenario.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it sounds interesting, but I would think it would be an scenario.
Mhm.
Um, well, we talked about this now before, but okay, with the victory at Ogram, I would really like to. I've said this before now, but every time, like the Tyranid's main problem is that it's that they're considered like the biggest threat to the galaxy next to Chaos.
But they always
And-
kept losing.
Yes, and because exactly because of that, and this is partly because they don't have a personality. So you can have Chaos win because you can be invested in your Chaos Space Marine characters or your Necron characters. But here's the thing. I want them to win more, and I want the Tyranids having to deal a bit more with chaos. Because you
Yes.
cannot tell me the hive mind is not concerned about the giant warp storm cutting the galaxy in half. Like, we already seen that they're adapting to psychic energy. But, like, would they be able to adapt to consume psychic beings? Like, would they become a threat to immaterial creatures?
Like we actually talked about that in an episode of
Yeah.
what if a Tyranid could eat a demon, especially
Yeah.
that one model that Neptus liked and of the sort.
Yes. Yes.
That would be very cool to see. And
Yes.
I just thought of this now actually. Imagine if like the hive mind itself is creating a sort of chaos god within the warp.
Yeah.
Or
Pretty
like,
much. I mean, oh, sorry.
yeah, or not an actual chaos god, but this like, because the Tyranid hive mind is an echo in the warp. It is like white noise to them, but the actual hive mind is an entity. Like something like the Bad Moon from Dead Space.
Yes, I get what you mean. Well, I think that the hive mind's already self-aware. I think it's already an entity, because it has a will of its own.
That's
But,
what I mean. Yeah, but it's like this. It's not a physical creature, but it's like this this echo creature within all minds of Tyranids that I think, therefore I am of all Tyranids creates this hive mind creature.
Yes.
And you can tell I've listened to I Have No Mouth, I Must Scream.
Yes.
But that's
Great
why
choice, by the way. Great choice, by the way.
That's what I have in mind. Like, just imagine like them showing off, or in the book somehow, I am the hive mind. I am all Tyranids.
We are many, you are but one.
Yeah.
I also, what I would like, the other species getting involved, because we know, like, the Imperium is the main faction. Okay, fine. In fact, that's kind of like my main wish to take with the Tyranids. Like, everyone accepts the threats of the Tyranids, but the only ones invested in it are the Imperium and the Necrons. Now, the Necrons are, most people consider them completely safe from the Tyranids because they are not biological. But what if the Tyranids adapted to eating the Necrodermis? Or
Yes.
what if the Tyranids managed to find a tendril of the Hive Fleet, managed to find its way inside of the webway, right into Chimera? Well, those pointy-head bastards would not be as comfortable as capturing Tyranids, Tyranid organisms for sport now, wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, imagine a Gene Stealer infestation inside of Chimera, like Gene Stealer Dark Eldar.
That would be extremely rare, or because if I'm right, Dark Eldar don't exactly, have children the same way Eldar do, and Eldar
Adaptability, adapt, survive, overcome. That's the Tyranid motto.
because they did technically infected a craft world once, but because it took them so long that they were basically starving for new biomass or new, quote unquote, genes to, mutate and quote unquote eat.
adapt, survive, overcome.
Yeah, they did, but it just took forever.
Well, that was a trial run. Imagine if they, they perfected the Eldar infection, infection infiltration stage, or the Orc infection infiltration stage.
Exactly.
I don't know. I just want to see the other factions actually react to them, other than the Necrons and the Imperium. Yeah, I know that the Craft Worlders have with the whole fall of Craft World but like everyone's afraid of the Tyranids. Like even the Necrons who do not really pay heed to chaos are interested in getting rid of them, but I feel like it's not no risk to them, and that's boring. So I want them to really show, like the way to go with the Tyranids is just to show that how dangerous they are for real. That's the way to go, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Which, the whole thing in Algrim is a good start to that. But let's hope that they manage to keep it that way for a while.
Of course. And final question is, favorite in real life beetle? If I'll give my answer, it's John Lennon, but seriously, to be serious though, my actual favorite beetle is actually the rhinoceros beetle because of the horns on his head. It makes it look metal as fuck.
Right.
And it basically looks like a real life Tyranid.
Okay, fair enough. It's not a bad choice. My favorite beetle, I would say, is the dung beetle. The one that rolls poop.
Fascinating.
Why? Yeah. Why? Because the fact that there exists a creature on this earth that literally roasts dung and then fights other beetles for its literal ball of dung, it's hilarious, and I love it. I'm pretty sure that God played a practical joke over that, and that the Egyptians actually consider it an avatar of an aspect of the sun god. It's also hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can get you. But with that, I think we've reached the end of the show. Is there anything you'd like to say before calling in?
Looking forward to what this edition brings with it. Sorry, and hopefully something will come out of this Tyranid victory at Algrim. Fingers crossed.
And hopefully we'll get some kind of really cool book out of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I felt recently that a lot of big events happen and that have no novelizations, and that shouldn't be a thing. Novelize things, for crying out loud.
Exactly. And with that, I'll see you all again next time. Have a good day, everyone.